The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel shimmered under 1,000 crystal lights. It was the kind of night when the elite of Manhattan gathered, billionaires, investors, and magazine editors, each dressed like power wrapped in silk and glass. Adrian Cole, founder of Cole Dynamics, stood at the center, a Mont Blanc pen clipped neatly to his tuxedo pocket, a man used to being admired. Beside him, his pregnant wife, Lily Tran, smiled faintly, her satin gown brushing against her 6-month belly. She didn't belong here, not really. Not among women dripping in diamonds and whispers sharper than champagne bubbles. Lily had spent all day preparing, hoping to stand beside her husband proudly. But the moment she entered, she felt the cold. The women around Sienna Vale, Adrian's rumored business consultant, stared like she was a stain on marble. Sienna's red dress was loud, her laughter louder, her perfume intoxicating and meant to dominate. Lily stayed quiet, holding a glass of sparkling water, praying the night would end quickly. Reporters circled Adrian, asking about his company's upcoming IPO. He smiled for every flash of an iPhone, a man built for attention. Yet every time he looked away from Lily, Sienna slid closer, pretending to whisper about investors from Beverly Hills. Lily noticed the touch of Sienna's hand on his arm, just long enough to sting, short enough to deny. The orchestra began a slow tune. Couples moved to the dance floor. Adrian offered his hand to Sienna instead of Lily. For a heartbeat, Lily froze, her chest tightening. A journalist captured the moment. Lily's empty hand, Sienna's triumphant smirk, Adrian's oblivious charm. That single image would later circle every gossip site in Manhattan. Trying to hold her dignity, Lily stepped back, steadying herself. But her heel caught the edge of the carpet. She stumbled, clutching her belly. "Please don't kick me," she cried, panic surging through her voice. The crowd gasped. For a second it felt like the whole world stopped breathing. Sienna turned, eyes gleaming, and whispered just loud enough, "Maybe next time, wear something that fits." The words sliced through the silence. A few people laughed quietly, pretending not to. Cameras flashed again. Lily's bracelet from Tiffany, her anniversary gift, slipped from her wrist and clattered against the marble. Adrian looked back, his expression unreadable, then turned away as if embarrassed. The humiliation burned like fire under her skin. Lily bent to pick up the bracelet, her hands trembling. She wanted to disappear. But then she noticed Ethan Ward across the room, the rival CEO, watching silently from near the bar. His gaze wasn't pity, it was recognition. He'd seen enough corporate cruelty to know when something sacred was breaking. Lily's heart pounded. She straightened, forced herself to breathe, to stand tall, even as whispers swirled around her like smoke. The chandelier light refracted across the marble floor, painting her in fractured gold. Somewhere inside her, a voice rose. Not tonight. Not like this. She placed the bracelet back on her wrist, one finger over the faint engraving. Forever, eh? It suddenly felt like a lie carved in silver. Adrian raised his glass across the room, pretending nothing had happened. The applause returned, the music swelled, and the cruelty of the night buried itself under glamour again. Lily stepped toward the exit, her hand on her belly, whispering to the child within her, "We'll be okay. Mama won't let them break us." But as she reached the door, a hand touched her shoulder gently. A man's hand, firm, calm. She turned, startled. Ethan Ward stood there, his eyes steady. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," he said quietly. And in that single moment, Lily realized someone had seen everything. The night after the gala was painfully still. Manhattan glittered below the glass walls of Adrian and Lily's penthouse, every window reflecting a life that looked perfect from the outside. But inside, silence screamed louder than any storm. Lily sat on the white leather couch, her knee bruised from the fall, pressing a cold compress wrapped in Dior tissue paper. The clock ticked past midnight. She heard the elevator doors slide open, followed by the faint click of Adrian's Mont Blanc shoes. He entered smelling of whiskey and Sienna's perfume, jasmine and power. Without looking at her, he loosened his tie and poured himself a drink. "You embarrassed me tonight," he said coldly. His tone wasn't anger, it was control, the kind that froze a room without raising a voice. Lily looked up, eyes red but calm. "I tripped. They pushed me. You saw what happened." "I saw you create a scene," he replied, swirling his glass. "Do you think investors want a wife who begs for sympathy in public?" Her heart cracked. She wasn't angry, just tired. "I'm 6 months pregnant, Adrian. I begged them not to hurt the baby. He turned, meeting her gaze for the first time that night. Then maybe stay home next time. You're not built for this world. That line hit her harder than any shove. Not built for this world. His world of silent power plays, backroom deals, and beautiful lies. She set the ice pack down and touched the bracelet he'd given her on their first anniversary. Your world used to be ours, she whispered. Adrian ignored her, opening his MacBook Pro on the marble counter. We have a board call at 9 a.m. Don't talk to the press. I'll handle the narrative. The narrative? She repeated. You mean the truth? He looked up, a shadow of irritation flashing in his eyes. In business, truth is what people believe. You'd do well to remember that. Lily's throat tightened. Once, she'd admired that confidence. Now it felt poisonous. She stood, walking toward the balcony, staring at the Manhattan skyline stretched like a constellation of broken promises. The night air was cold, but it felt cleaner than the room behind her. Her phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number appeared. Leave quietly, or the world will know what kind of wife you really are. She stared at it, her pulse quickening. The words chilled her, not just the threat, but the precision of it. Someone inside his circle wanted her gone. When she turned, Adrian was already on another call. Yes, Natalie, I'll send over the draft. Make sure Sienna posts at noon. He didn't even lower his voice. Lily realized he didn't care if she heard. That was the final cruelty, not secrecy, but indifference. She went to their bedroom, opened the drawer, and pulled out a small black notebook. Inside were her private notes, dates, and observations. Tiny details she'd started writing months ago when things began to shift. She didn't know why she kept them, maybe instinct, maybe survival. Tonight, it became her lifeline. She wrote, October 22nd, Adrian defended Sienna. Called me dramatic, mentioned investors, smelled of whiskey and Chanel. The baby kicked lightly. Lily placed a hand over her stomach and whispered, We'll be safe, I promise. When she returned to the living room, Adrian had fallen asleep on the couch, his laptop still open. The glow of the screen reflected emails, dozens of them, between him and S-Val PR. Her breath caught. They weren't about business meetings. They were about private dinners, hidden getaways, and keeping things quiet before the IPO. Lily closed the laptop gently, her heart pounding, but her face calm. She finally understood the world she lived in. It wasn't built for honesty, but she would be. She'd build her own. She turned off the lights, letting the city outside light her path. From the balcony, the hum of traffic below sounded like a heartbeat, steady, alive, unstoppable. And somewhere deep inside, Lily felt the first spark of something she hadn't felt in months. Resolve. The morning sun broke through a misty Manhattan sky as Lily walked slowly through Central Park, her coat buttoned over her belly, one hand resting protectively on the curve of new life inside her. The city around her buzzed with the rhythm of early joggers, nannies with strollers, and the distant hum of taxi horns along Fifth Avenue. But inside, she felt like a ghost, floating between the woman she once was and the one she was being forced to become. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number. Leave before you embarrass yourself further. She deleted it without reading twice. The chill of October bit at her cheeks, but she welcomed it. Pain reminded her she was still here, still breathing. She sat down on a green bench near the lake, watching the ripples glint under the soft gold of morning light. For the first time in weeks, she let herself cry silently. Rough morning? A man's voice said. Lily turned, startled. Ethan Ward stood a few feet away, dressed in a charcoal coat, holding a cup of black coffee. She recognized him instantly. Adrian's business rival, the man every financial magazine called the quiet storm of Wall Street. They'd met briefly at a charity gala months ago. She remembered his polite nod back then, his distance. Now he seemed different, calm, careful, but concerned. Mr. Ward, she said, trying to compose herself. I didn't expect to see you here. I walk here every morning before the markets open, he said. It's the only place in the city where people don't talk about money. He offered a faint smile. I saw what happened at the plaza. That wasn't right. Lily froze. You saw? He nodded. I was standing near the press section. You were pushed and everyone pretended not to notice. Shame flushed her face. It doesn't matter. Adrian said I overreacted. Ethan's eyes darkened. People like him depend on silence. If you don't speak, they win. His words hung in the air. Lily wanted to believe him, but trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Still, something about his tone felt safe. No pity, just understanding. Ethan reached into his coat pocket and handed her a business card embossed with his name in silver. The Mont Blanc logo glimmered faintly under the sun. "If you ever need someone neutral," he said softly, "someone not tied to him, call me. I don't mix business with gossip." Lily hesitated but took the card. The gesture felt more like a lifeline than an offer. "Thank you," she said quietly. He nodded and began to walk away. But after a few steps, he turned back. "Lily, one more thing. Don't let them make you feel crazy. That's their favorite trick." When he disappeared into the trees, Lily sat still for a long time. The city felt a little less lonely, the air a bit warmer. She opened her phone again, this time not to check messages but to record her thoughts. Her voice trembled at first. "October 23rd, she said softly. "Met Ethan Ward. He saw everything. Someone else knows the truth." A jogger passed, glancing briefly at her tear-streaked face before moving on. She inhaled deeply, straightened her shoulders, and looked across the water. The world wasn't kind, but maybe, just maybe, it wasn't entirely cruel. Her phone vibrated again, a new email notification. The subject line read, "Confidential, Board Retreat Guest List." It was sent from Adrian's executive assistant by mistake. Her heart pounded as she opened it. There it was, Sienna Vale listed as special PR guest, scheduled to attend a private weekend retreat in the Hamptons. Lily's eyes hardened. She pressed save and uploaded the document to her private cloud. The wind rustled through the trees as if the city itself was whispering encouragement. She looked down at her belly and whispered, "They think I'm weak, but they don't know what a mother can do." And as the sunlight caught her face, for the first time in months, Lily felt the faint spark of power returning to her veins. The next afternoon, Lily sat in a corner booth of a quiet Starbucks near Fifth Avenue. The aroma of roasted coffee beans wrapped around her like a blanket she hadn't realized she needed. Outside, taxis honked, and the rush of city life continued as if her world hadn't collapsed. She stirred her decaf latte absent-mindedly, her iPhone on the table, screen glowing with unread messages from Adrian. She didn't open them. Not yet. Today wasn't about him. It was about her. Her lawyer, a calm woman named Margaret Green, slid into the seat across from her. "You look pale, Lily. How are you holding up?" Lily forced a faint smile. "I'm fine, just tired." Margaret opened her folder, adjusting her reading glasses. "I reviewed your prenup. There are clauses we can use, but we'll need evidence. Emotional abuse, public humiliation, and, if possible, financial misconduct. Have you gathered anything since we last spoke?" Lily nodded and handed over a small flash drive. "Emails. Hotel receipts. Company cars used for private trips. He thinks I don't notice, but I do." Margaret inserted the drive into her MacBook Air, scrolling through the documents. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "You've done your homework. This could help us establish a pattern." She paused. "But Adrian Cole isn't just any man. He has influence. Press, investors, lawyers who eat people alive for breakfast. If you move too soon, they'll spin this against you. We have to be strategic." Lily's eyes lowered. "I'm not after his money. I just want peace and protection. For me and my baby." Margaret nodded. "Then we'll start by documenting your stress level. I'll schedule you with a medical specialist who can testify if needed. Emotional harm matters in court, especially during pregnancy." For a moment, the words emotional harm echoed in Lily's mind. They sounded so sterile, so clinical, compared to the weight she carried every night. The isolation, the fear, the humiliation masked behind luxury walls. She wrapped her hands around the warm coffee cup, steadying herself. Margaret continued, "You also need to stay quiet publicly. No reaction, no posts. Let them think you're retreating. Silence makes them careless." Lily nodded. "I can do that." When Margaret left, Lily remained at the table, staring through the window. Across the street, a young couple laughed, sharing a croissant, their hands brushing as if the world had never taught them about betrayal. For a heartbeat, Lily wished she could be them again, naive, unscarred. Her phone buzzed. A message from Adrian's PR manager, Natalie Brooks. "Hi Lily, just checking in. Hope you're okay. Let's meet to clear the misunderstanding about the plaza." Misunderstanding. The word made her stomach twist. She deleted the message, finished her latte, and decided to take a walk before heading home. As she passed a bookstore nearby, a title caught her eye. Atomic habits. She'd heard of it, something about small changes creating big results. On impulse, she bought a copy. That night, in her penthouse, while Adrian was still at his business dinner, she sat by the window, reading under the glow of the city. The words felt like quiet strength whispering back to her. Focus on one thing you can control today. Just one. She picked up her phone and called her doctor. I need you to record my stress levels during pregnancy, she said softly. For legal reasons. The doctor hesitated, then agreed. I'll make sure everything's documented. When she hung up, Lily stared out at the Manhattan skyline, its glittering towers mocking her with their perfection. She pressed a hand to her belly and whispered, I'll make small changes, baby, one at a time, until we're free. Suddenly a notification blinked, an alert from a gossip site. The headline read, Cole's wife causes drama at Gala, jealousy or hormones. Beneath it, a blurred photo of her crying at the plaza. Her hands shook, tears welling. She looked at the skyline again, then closed her eyes. Let them talk, she murmured. Soon I'll show them what truth looks like. And that night, as the city pulsed beneath her, Lily made a silent vow. This would be the last time anyone wrote her story without her permission. The next morning, the city woke to chaos, and so did Lily. Her phone buzzed endlessly with alerts, messages, and missed calls. The headline that burned across every gossip site read, Lily Tran loses control at the Plaza Gala, tears, drama, and jealous rage. Beneath it was a video clip, shaky iPhone footage of her pleading, please don't kick me, I'm pregnant, cut just before Sienna's shove. The edited clip made it look like Lily had lunged first. In less than 6 hours, she had become Manhattan's morning scandal. She sat frozen on the couch, the sound of her heartbeat louder than the noise from the street below. The comments under the video were brutal. Classic gold digger. Pregnancy hormones. Poor Adrian, married the wrong woman. Lily's hands trembled as she locked her phone. Her stomach tightened. She could almost feel her baby react to her anxiety. The penthouse door opened. Adrian strode in, phone pressed to his ear, voice cold and sharp. Yes, delete the comments. Push the narrative that she's overwhelmed. Blame stress. He hung up, tossing his phone on the table. His eyes met hers. You couldn't stay out of trouble for one night, could you? Lily's voice was barely a whisper. They pushed me. Adrian, you saw it. I saw my company's image crumble because of you, he snapped. You embarrassed me in front of every investor I've worked for years to impress. Her vision blurred with tears, but she refused to look away. You let them humiliate me, your pregnant wife, and said nothing. He turned to pour himself coffee, dismissive. It's better to be silent than make things worse. Her breath hitched. Worse? They edited the video to make me the villain. You could stop it with one call. Adrian set down his mug, his tone icy. I already did. I told the media you were emotional because of the pregnancy. It's the best spin we have. The words cut deep. He'd turned her pain into PR. Lily stared at him, speechless. Later that afternoon, while Adrian left for a damage control meeting, she reached out to Ethan's legal contact, the same specialist he'd mentioned in Central Park. A woman named Claire picked up. Her voice was steady, no nonsense. Miss Tran, Mr. Ward told me you might call. Save everything. Every message, every clip. Don't react online. We'll handle the forensics. Lily exhaled shakily. I just want the truth out. The truth, Claire replied, always finds a way. But you need to protect yourself first. Lily thanked her and hung up. Then she opened her MacBook, searching the web for the full video from the gala. After hours of scrolling, she found a low-resolution version, uploaded by a small blog. This one showed the full scene, Sienna bumping into her first. Lily downloaded it, saved it to 3 separate drives, and backed it up to the cloud. Her hands no longer trembled. By evening, the phone rang again. Natalie Brooks, Adrian's PR manager, spoke in her honeyed professional tone. Lily, darling, I hope you're okay. We're asking you not to comment publicly. The board's worried it'll escalate. Lily kept her voice even. Escalate what, Natalie? The truth? A pause. We're trying to protect everyone involved. Everyone but me, Lily replied softly and ended the call. That night, she stood by the window, watching rain streak down the glass like silent tears. Somewhere across the city, Sienna was likely laughing over dinner, sipping champagne, telling her followers how misunderstood she was. Adrian was probably there too, pretending it was all a business meeting. Lily pressed a hand against the cool glass, the lights of Manhattan shimmering beneath her reflection. "Let them build their lies," she whispered. "When I'm ready, I'll tear them down one truth at a time." She turned back toward her desk, opening her laptop. The folder labeled Evidence glowed faintly on the screen. She clicked it open and began typing notes, every word steady and deliberate. And somewhere between fury and calm, Lily realized she wasn't the scandal anymore. She was the story's reckoning. And the world just didn't know it yet. The next day dawned gray and sharp, the kind of Manhattan morning that felt like it could slice you in half. Lily woke early, but something felt off. When she tried to order groceries online, her payment was declined. She frowned, checking her account. The balance read 0. Her secondary card, one Adrian had given her, was suddenly locked. Confused, she grabbed her phone and called the bank. "Mrs. Cole," the woman on the other end said politely, "your card access was revoked yesterday at the request of the primary holder." Lily's throat tightened. "My husband?" "Yes, ma'am, we received the authorization directly." Her chest burned. Adrian hadn't even warned her. He'd cut her off completely, financially isolating her while she was pregnant. The cruelty wasn't just in the act, it was in the silence. She hung up and sat on the edge of the bed, gripping her belly. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. "Mama will figure this out." She always did. Minutes later, she opened Adrian's office drawer, the one he often left unlocked after late nights. Inside, neat folders marked charitable events and media partnerships filled the space. She noticed something strange, a folder labeled Private Allocations. She opened it carefully. Inside were expense reports, dinners, hotel stays, designer jewelry purchases, all categorized under corporate outreach. Her heart sank. She recognized one receipt immediately, a $14,200 charge at Cartier, dated the same weekend Adrian claimed to be on a business trip. Next to the note was an abbreviation, SVPR, Sienna Vale, Public Relations. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to keep reading. There were dozens more, Ritz-Carlton, the River Cafe, gifts marked as media appreciation. She scanned them all, then quietly began photographing each document with her iPhone. The light from the window cast soft lines across her face as she worked. By the time she was done, she had over 70 images saved to her phone. She uploaded them to the cloud and renamed the folder Truth. The elevator chimed outside. Adrian was home early. Lily rushed to close the drawer and slipped her phone into her robe pocket. He entered the penthouse, voice cool, expression unreadable. "You called the bank?" "I needed to buy food, Adrian," he shrugged, setting his MacBook on the counter. "You don't need to spend right now. Everything you need is here, except respect," she replied quietly. He turned, eyes narrowing. "Don't start this again. You've embarrassed me enough. Let's not make it worse." She crossed her arms. "Cutting off your pregnant wife's money isn't worse? You're overreacting. I just need to manage the accounts until things calm down. We're under scrutiny." Lily bit her lip to keep from shouting. "Under scrutiny because of your choices, not mine." He looked away. "I have meetings." As soon as he left, Lily called Margaret, her lawyer. "He froze my accounts. I think he's moving money through the company." Margaret's voice stayed calm. "Keep every record. We'll subpoena the rest when the time comes. Do not confront him again about finances. You need to stay safe." "Safe," Lily repeated softly. The word felt foreign. That evening, she sat by the window again, the skyline glowing gold and silver. A Mercedes S-Class rolled into the driveway below. She didn't have to look twice. She knew that silhouette. Sienna stepped out, laughing, her hair catching the light as she entered the building. Lily's stomach turned. That car was company property. Another receipt for her folder. Another lie wrapped in luxury. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Keep quiet, or the board will find out what you've done." She stared at it, a slow, cold clarity filling her chest. She wasn't the one who should be afraid. She opened her notes app and typed, October 26, Adrian's misuse of company funds confirmed. Witness, Sienna, vehicle S-Class. She looked up at the skyline again. It no longer intimidated her. It fueled her. And for the first time, Lily realized she didn't need Adrian's money to survive. She needed his downfall to breathe. The next day, Lily received an unexpected call. Adrian's mother, Evelyn Cole, wanted to meet. Her voice over the phone was polished, careful, and cold, like someone who smiled while calculating every word. Lily dear, we should talk. I'm at the Park Hyatt for lunch. I think it's time we clear the air. Lily hesitated, instinct whispering that nothing good would come from it, but refusing would make her look guilty. And Evelyn Cole was a woman who controlled reputations as easily as others controlled breathing. I'll be there, Lily said quietly. The Park Hyatt restaurant glowed with midday elegance, polished marble, crystal chandeliers, and the faint murmur of expensive secrets. Evelyn sat at a corner table near the window, a strand of pearls resting perfectly on her collarbone. She didn't rise when Lily approached. She simply gestured to the empty seat. Lily, she said with a restrained smile, you look tired. Pregnancy can do that. Lily sat down, folding her hands in her lap. It's been a lot lately. Evelyn stirred her tea slowly. Yes, I can imagine. The press hasn't been kind. I warned Adrian that marrying someone outside our circle would invite complications. Lily felt the jab, subtle but sharp. I didn't realize love had circles, Mrs. Cole. Evelyn looked up, her smile tightening. In our world, everything has circles. Business, society, even loyalty. I understand you've spoken to lawyers. The air froze. I'm protecting myself, Lily said carefully. Evelyn sighed, leaning back. I don't think you understand how this looks. Adrian's company is weeks from its IPO. Any hint of scandal could destroy years of work and cost hundreds of people their jobs. If you truly care about him or this family, you'll stay quiet. Lily's pulse quickened. Stay quiet while I'm humiliated? While your son's mistresses taunt me in public? Evelyn's gaze hardened. You're emotional. I'm asking you to be practical. The best thing you can do right now is disappear for a while. Let things calm down. I've already arranged for a villa in the Hamptons. It's peaceful there. Disappear? Lily repeated, stunned. You want me to leave my own home? Evelyn's voice dropped lower. For your own good, and the baby's. Adrian needs space to manage the crisis. You'll only make things worse if you stay. Lily's breath hitched, but she kept her tone steady. You mean for his image, not my safety. Evelyn's eyes flickered with annoyance. You're ungrateful. We took you in, gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? Stirring drama, dragging our name through the mud? Lily felt her composure slipping. I didn't drag anything. Adrian did when he betrayed our marriage. The older woman's jaw tightened. Watch your words, Lily. Men make mistakes. Wives endure. That's how families survive in our world. For a moment, the restaurant noise faded, and Lily heard only her own heartbeat. She realized Evelyn wasn't here to protect the family. She was here to protect the brand. Lily rose slowly, napkin falling from her lap. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cole, but I won't be exiled for your convenience. Evelyn's expression didn't change, but her voice sharpened. Then don't expect my help when this all comes crashing down. Lily met her gaze one last time. I'm not asking for your help. I'm building my own way out. She turned and walked out of the restaurant, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Outside, the wind was biting cold, but it felt purifying. She wrapped her coat tighter and whispered to her belly, We're not running anymore. When she arrived home later, her belongings had been moved into boxes stacked neatly in the living room. A single sheet of paper sat on top. Temporary relocation request, signed by Adrian Cole. Lily stood in silence, eyes glistening but dry. They wanted to erase her, remove her like a bad rumor. She smiled faintly, something steel-like in her chest hardening into resolve. And as the elevator hummed above, Lily whispered to herself, If they want war, I'll give them justice instead. The next morning, a soft rain blanketed Manhattan in gray. Lily stood at the window, watching droplets slide down the glass like slow tears. The penthouse felt emptier than ever, her clothes boxed, her name erased from the home she once built. Her phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. You're not alone. Meet me, Ward Capital, 10 a.m. She hesitated, then recognized the initials at the bottom, E.W. Ethan Ward. For a moment, she almost ignored it, but instinct told her this wasn't pity, it was purpose. She got dressed carefully, a simple black coat, hair tied back, minimal makeup. She looked in the mirror, touching her belly softly. For you, she whispered, for our future. Ward Capital's office towered over Park Avenue, sleek, modern, all glass and quiet power. The security guard greeted her respectfully, already expecting her. When she stepped out of the elevator on the 35th floor, the atmosphere shifted. The space was calm, neutral, almost soothing. No flashing egos, no whispers, just efficiency. Ethan was waiting near the floor-to-ceiling window, a coffee in hand. "You came," he said, his voice low, warm but professional. Lily nodded. "You said you saw what happened that night. Why reach out?" He gestured for her to sit. "Because I know what it's like to be silenced by people who think they're untouchable, and because this isn't just about you anymore. Adrian's actions are affecting the market. If he's using company funds for personal affairs, shareholders could lose millions." Lily blinked. "You think he's committing fraud?" Ethan met her eyes. "I think he's playing with fire, and you're the only one who can prove it." For a moment, her hands trembled. "I'm not trying to destroy him, Ethan. I just want the truth to exist somewhere outside his control." "Good," Ethan said softly. "That's exactly what justice looks like." He opened a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were copies of financial statements, suspicious transfers, and PR invoices marked under shell subsidiaries. "My analysts found inconsistencies, but your photos, the receipts, the travel records, could complete the puzzle. If you're willing to cooperate, I'll have my legal team coordinate with your attorney. No media, no leaks, quietly, cleanly." Lily hesitated. "If I help, Adrian will know. He'll come after me." "Then let him," Ethan replied calmly. "Men like him collapse under their own arrogance. You just have to stay standing when he falls." The words lingered like oxygen in a suffocating room. For the first time, Lily didn't feel like prey. She looked at the papers again, realizing she had the power to shift everything, not with noise, but with evidence. "I'll do it," she said firmly. Ethan gave a small nod. "We'll keep everything confidential. My team will coordinate with your lawyer, and I'll make sure you have protection, financially and legally." "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. He paused. "Because I watched you fall at that gala, and no one moved to help. That kind of silence doesn't sit right with me." Lily felt a sting of emotion but swallowed it. Thank you," she said, standing. As he escorted her to the elevator, the glass walls reflected the skyline, steel towers rising through clouds. Her reflection looked stronger than she remembered. Inside the elevator, Ethan spoke again. "Lily, remember this. Survival isn't revenge. It's proof that they didn't break you." The elevator doors slid shut, leaving her alone in mirrored light. She took a deep breath and touched her bracelet, the Tiffany silver glinting faintly. It no longer felt like a chain, it felt like armor. When she stepped out onto Park Avenue, the rain had stopped. The city glowed under pale sunlight. She pulled her coat tighter and started walking, her phone buzzing with a new message from Margaret, her lawyer. "We're ready when you are." Lily looked up at the sky, her heart steady. "I'm ready," she whispered. And for the first time since the nightmare began, she wasn't running. She was preparing to fight. The morning air in Manhattan felt unusually sharp when Lily stepped out of the cab in front of the courthouse. The tall granite building loomed above her, cold and unforgiving, its steps slick from last night's rain. She tightened her coat and held the folder in her hands. The divorce petition, neatly prepared by Margaret. Every line on the document was a wound written in legal language. Adultery, emotional distress, financial misconduct. She'd read it 3 times and still couldn't believe she was the woman those words described. Inside, the hallways smelled faintly of coffee and nerves. Reporters lingered near the entrance, hoping for a glimpse of the billionaire couple. Lily kept her head down, sunglasses hiding the exhaustion under her eyes. Margaret walked beside her, calm and poised. "Remember," she whispered, "we're not here for revenge, we're here for freedom." Lily nodded, her heart hammering. "Freedom," she echoed softly. They reached the clerk's office. The sound of the paper hitting the counter was strangely final, like the closing note of a long, cruel song. When the clerk stamped the form, Lily felt something inside her shift. Not relief yet, but a spark of control she hadn't felt in months. The door behind her opened. Adrian walked in. He looked immaculate as always, dark suit, silver tie, an expensive watch gleaming on his wrist. But there was something colder about him now, something hollow. His lawyer followed, carrying a briefcase and an expression that said everything was a performance. Adrian's eyes met hers, and for a second, time froze. "You didn't have to do this publicly," he said under his breath. Lily's voice was steady. "I gave you every chance to fix what you broke. You chose silence." He smirked faintly. "You'll regret this." "I already did," she replied. "Every day I stayed." Margaret motioned toward the exit. "Let's go, Lily. But as they turned, Adrian's voice rose just enough for the reporters to catch. "She's unstable. This is about attention." Cameras flashed, microphones lifted. Lily kept walking, refusing to turn around. Outside, the chaos erupted. Journalists shouting questions, snapping photos, speculating about her motives. Her pulse raced, but she forced herself to keep moving. She didn't need to prove anything to them. The truth would speak when it was time. By noon, the story was everywhere. Billionaire's wife files for divorce amid scandal. The media called her the fragile wife, the jealous woman, the unpredictable risk. But underneath the noise, support began to form. Women across social media started commenting, sharing their own stories, calling her brave. A quiet wave of solidarity rose from strangers she'd never met. That evening, Ethan called. "I saw the filing," he said gently. "You did the right thing. My team's monitoring the company chatter. Adrian's been moving assets around, probably trying to bury the evidence." Lily sat by the window, the city lights reflecting off her tears. "He'll destroy everything to protect his image." "Then we make sure his image burns first," Ethan replied. "Stay calm. We'll handle it from the shadows." After the call, Lily packed a small suitcase. Margaret had arranged a safe apartment near Central Park, away from the paparazzi. As she folded the last of her clothes, she noticed a box on the nightstand, her wedding ring, bracelet, and a letter. Adrian's handwriting covered the page. "If you leave, you'll lose everything that matters." Lily stared at it for a long moment. Then she slipped off the ring, placed it in the envelope, and sealed it. "You already took everything that mattered," she whispered. She left the penthouse key on the counter and walked out without looking back. The elevator doors closed softly behind her, erasing the last echo of their life together. When she reached the street, the wind caught her hair, and for the first time she felt light. The city no longer looked like a battlefield, it looked like a beginning. And as the taxi pulled away from the curb, Lily realized that freedom didn't start with escape. It started with the courage to sign her own name. The storm hit the city that night. Rain slashed against the windows of Lily's new apartment near Central Park, thunder rumbling like distant anger. She sat at her small kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea from a chipped mug. The room was modest, nothing like the penthouse she'd left behind, but it was hers. For the first time in months, the air didn't smell like tension or luxury. It smelled like peace. Her phone buzzed again. Headlines, gossip, speculation. Adrian had gone on the offensive. Every news outlet now carried his version of the story. Adrian Cole speaks out, wife's mental health struggles behind the divorce. A photo of Lily at the gala, her face mid-cry, accompanied every article. The captions were cruel: emotional instability, unfit for motherhood, gold digger meltdown. Lily closed her eyes. It was exactly what she feared. He was using his media empire to paint her as broken. And worse, it was working. People believed him because he was powerful, because his voice echoed louder. Her phone rang. Margaret's voice came through, calm but tight. "Lily, don't read the articles. He's trying to provoke you. Stay silent and focus on our case." "I'm tired of silence," Lily said softly. "Then channel that tiredness," Margaret replied. "We'll answer with truth, not emotion. I've already contacted a medical expert to confirm your stress-related complications during pregnancy, and Ethan's team is preparing the financial documents for submission. Once that evidence is filed, Adrian's lies won't matter." Lily exhaled slowly. "I just want to protect my baby. I don't care about his empire." "I know," Margaret said, "but to protect your child, we need to expose what he's done. And for that, you have to stay strong a little longer." After the call, Lily went to the window. The rain blurred the city lights into watercolor smears of gold and blue. She pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the vibration of thunder through her skin. Somewhere out there, Adrian was probably in his office, spinning another version of reality, convincing everyone he was the victim. Her laptop pinged with an email from Ethan. It contained the summary report: unauthorized fund transfers, falsified receipts, and private communication logs linking Sienna Vale to company-sponsored expenses. The truth was staring back at her in clean, irrefutable data. Ethan's message was short: "Ready to move when you are. Evidence locked and time-stamped. Stay calm. You're not alone." For the first time in weeks, Lily smiled faintly. She copied the files to her personal drive and labeled them "Freedom." Then she began writing her own statement, not for the press, not for pity, but for herself. She wrote about the night at the plaza, the silence of a husband who cared more for reputation than love, the loneliness of being invisible in a golden cage. Every word was raw, real, and cleansing. At midnight, she stopped. Her hand rested on her belly, feeling a tiny kick. "We're almost there," she whispered. The next morning she dressed simply, cream sweater, black trousers, her Tiffany bracelet glinting softly on her wrist. When she stepped outside, the storm had passed. The air was cold but clean, the streets washed bright under the morning sun. She walked to the nearest cafe, ordered a small coffee, and opened her book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. She read the line she'd underlined the night before. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The words sank deep. What stood in her way, Adrian's lies, the scandal, the pain, wasn't her end. It was the path to her truth. Her phone buzzed again. A new message from Margaret. "Court date confirmed. We're ready." Lily looked out at Central Park, sunlight breaking through the clouds. For the first time, she didn't feel fear. She felt focus. She sipped her coffee, closed the book, and whispered to herself, "Let the storm come. I'm ready to walk through it." And as the city began to wake, Lily didn't feel like the woman who'd fallen. She felt like the one who would rise. The elevator doors opened onto the 58th floor of Coal Dynamics, and the sound of quiet power filled the air. Soft footsteps on polished marble, the low hum of conversations between people who thought they owned the world. Lily stood at the end of the corridor, her reflection stretched across the glass walls. For a moment she thought about turning back. But she remembered her baby's heartbeat at her last appointment and the promise she had whispered, "Mama won't be silent anymore." Margaret walked beside her, calm but fierce. "Remember, you have 10 minutes to speak. No emotion, just truth. Let the evidence speak for itself." Lily nodded. "I can do that." The conference room was larger than any courtroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Park Avenue, a long mahogany table surrounded by the most powerful men and women in New York finance. At the head sat Adrian, immaculate as ever, his expression unreadable. Sienna was there too, seated 2 chairs away, pretending to take notes, her eyes glimmering with smug satisfaction. As Lily entered, the room went silent. Adrian cleared his throat. "This is a private meeting," he said coldly. "You don't belong here." Margaret set a document on the table. "According to shareholder law, Mrs. That Cole holds legal right of attendance as a spouse and financial witness during ongoing investigations." The silence deepened. One of the board members, a gray-haired man with a Cartier watch, gestured. "She may speak for 10 minutes. Adrian leaned back, smirking. "Make it quick." Lily took a deep breath and connected her laptop to the projector. The screen lit up behind her. Rows of financial transactions, company funds disguised as public relations outreach. The dates matched hotel receipts, luxury purchases, and private transfers. She clicked to the next slide. Social media posts of Sienna wearing gifts purchased from those accounts. The murmurs started. A woman from the finance division whispered to another, eyes widening. Adrian's jaw tightened. "This is a violation of privacy." "No," Lily interrupted, her voice firm but calm. "This is a violation of trust, of ethics, of every person who believed in this company." Her words landed like glass shattering in slow motion. The boardroom felt suddenly smaller, the air sharper. She continued, her tone unwavering. "For months, I was told to stay quiet, to protect the family name. But silence has a price. You can destroy reputations with lies, but the truth always finds a way through." Adrian slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. You're trying to ruin me because you can't handle rejection." Lily met his glare. "You ruined yourself when you forgot that power isn't ownership." One of the senior investors stood abruptly. "Mr. Cole, is there any validity to these transactions?" Adrian hesitated, his eyes darting toward Sienna. For the first time, his mask cracked. Another board member spoke up. "I'm calling for an independent audit." Adrian's face went pale. "This is a witch hunt." Lily unplugged her laptop and looked at him one last time. "No, Adrian, this is accountability." She gathered her things, and as she turned to leave, the sound of her heels against the marble echoed like a verdict. Outside the conference room, the world felt brighter, lighter. Margaret exhaled slowly. "You did it. You dropped the knife where it hurts the most, in the truth." Lily smiled faintly. He taught me how to play his game. I just chose to play it clean. Downstairs, she stepped out onto Park Avenue. The wind lifted her hair, the city roaring around her, alive with possibility. Somewhere behind those glass walls, Adrian's empire was beginning to crack. She looked up at the skyline, hand resting over her belly. "We're almost free," she whispered. And as the first hint of sunlight broke through the clouds, Lily knew the next battle wouldn't be in secret. It would be in front of the whole world. That evening, Manhattan gleamed under the rain, its skyline glistening like wet glass. The tension in the city air matched the electricity inside the Ritz-Carlton, where the top-floor ballroom had been transformed for a private dinner hosted by Coal Dynamics. Adrian had called it a casual meeting with key investors to clarify misunderstandings. In reality, it was a last-ditch effort to contain the fire Lily had ignited. Lily hadn't been invited, of course, but the universe has a strange sense of timing. That night, she happened to arrive at the hotel, not as a guest, but as a ghost of her old life. Margaret had received a tip. Sienna would be attending, and something about the dinner seemed off. Lily wanted to see for herself. She wore a simple navy dress, her hair tied back, nothing glamorous, just dignity wrapped in calm. Her lawyer had insisted she stay hidden, but Lily had learned that sometimes presence speaks louder than confrontation. Inside, the air was thick with perfume and pretense. Waiters glided between tables, carrying trays of champagne. Adrian stood at the center, charming as ever, shaking hands, pretending nothing had changed. Beside him, Sienna wore a white satin dress that looked like a wedding gown, stripped of meaning. Every movement screamed victory, arrogance, and denial. From her quiet corner near the bar, Lily observed. She wasn't there to cause a scene, only to witness the truth for herself. "Mrs. Cole?" A soft voice startled her. The young waiter stood nearby, holding a tray of empty glasses. His eyes darted nervously toward Adrian and Sienna. "I probably shouldn't say anything, but I was here last week. I saw them sign a corporate receipt. Dinner for two charged to company funds." Lily's pulse quickened. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I remember because the tip was in cash, new bills, and Mr. Cole gave me this pen as a thank you." He held up a Mont Blanc pen engraved with the Coal Dynamics logo. Lily stared at it, her heart pounding. "Would you be willing to make a statement if needed?" The waiter hesitated. "If it's confidential, yes." "Thank you," she whispered. "You just did the right thing." Meanwhile, across the room, Adrian raised his glass, laughing too loudly. "To loyalty," he toasted. "To truth and family." The irony wasn't lost on anyone who'd seen the news that week. Even some investors exchanged uncomfortable glances. Sienna leaned in, whispering something that made him smile. Then she reached for her phone, scrolling through messages. For a split second, Lily saw her screen reflected in the mirror behind the bar. An open email labeled PR Rates Influencer Partnership Proposal. Attached was a PDF titled Deliverables and Compensation, Coal Dynamics. Lily's breath caught. There it was, the proof she hadn't even come looking for. Sienna's entire public relationship with Adrian wasn't just scandal, it was a contract. She slipped her phone out of her bag and discreetly took a photo of the reflection, zooming in on the subject line and timestamp. Her heart raced. She didn't need to destroy him with emotion, she could destroy him with facts. A few minutes later, she stepped out to the hallway, calling Margaret in a whisper. "I just got something." An email. Proof of Sienna's payments through company funds. Margaret's tone sharpened. "That's the final piece, Lily. Leave immediately. We'll file it in the morning." As she turned to leave, she caught one last glimpse of Adrian. He was smiling, oblivious, basking in his own illusion of control. For a moment, she almost pitied him. The man who had everything but never knew peace. Outside, the city lights reflected off the wet pavement, and Lily felt the weight of months lift from her shoulders. She had everything she needed now. Not vengeance, but vindication. She slipped her phone into her coat pocket, her steps light despite the rain. And as thunder rolled over Manhattan, Lily realized she no longer needed to fight in the shadows. Truth had already chosen her side. The next morning broke with a strange calm. Manhattan's skyline shimmered beneath a pale sunrise, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Lily sat at her kitchen table. The evidence spread before her. Photos, receipts, emails, bank records, and now the final piece, the snapshot of Sienna's contract email. The web was complete. Every lie Adrian had spun was about to collapse under its own weight. Her phone buzzed with messages she didn't open. Margaret was already on her way to file the documents, and Ethan's team had prepared the formal report to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Today wasn't about emotion. It was about exposure. At 9 o'clock sharp, financial networks across the country began to hum. A leak had surfaced, one Lily hadn't initiated. Someone inside the company had tipped off the press. Coal Dynamics under internal investigation for misuse of shareholder funds. The headline blazed across every major outlet. Adrian's smiling face appeared next to words he could no longer control. Lily froze, heart racing. She hadn't expected it to happen this soon. Her phone rang. "Ethan, it's begun," he said. "Our analysts confirm the story broke from a verified insider. Adrian's board is panicking. You're not the villain anymore, Lily. You're the whistleblower." She gripped the phone tighter. "I didn't leak it." "I know, but whoever did just handed you the upper hand." Outside, the world spun faster. Stock tickers on Wall Street flashed red. Coal Dynamics dropped 5% in an hour. Reporters camped outside the company's glass headquarters, shouting questions into microphones. For once, it wasn't Lily's name they were calling. It was Adrian's. By noon, she was watching the chaos unfold on her living room TV. The anchor's voice was calm but cutting. Sources confirmed that luxury expenses, including jewelry and accommodations, were billed to Coal Dynamics under public relations, with one recipient being influencer Sienna Vale. The camera cut to Sienna leaving her apartment, face hidden behind oversized sunglasses, refusing to answer questions. The reporters swarmed her like bees. "Did you misuse company funds? Are you still in a relationship with Adrian Cole?" Lily watched in silence. It should have felt like victory, but instead, it felt like quiet justice, inevitable, heavy, and sad. A knock on the door broke her thoughts. It was Margaret, her lawyer, holding a folder. "It's official," she said, setting it down. "The board has suspended Adrian pending investigation. The audit confirmed over $200,000 in personal expenses billed to the company. You did it, Lily." Lily looked up. "We did it." Margaret smiled. "You're not just a victim anymore. You're a witness, and a strong one." Her phone buzzed again, a text from Adrian. The first in weeks. "You think you've won, but this isn't over." She stared at it for a long time, then deleted it without replying. For the first time, she didn't feel the need to explain herself. Silence, now, was her weapon. Later that afternoon, Ethan called again. "The market's stabilizing. The board's moving forward without him. You may not realize this yet, but you saved hundreds of people's jobs by doing what you did." Lily glanced toward the window, watching the sunlight glint off the distant office towers. "All I wanted was peace." Somehow, the truth demanded more. Ethan's voice softened. "The truth always demands more." When she hung up, she found herself looking at an old photo on the wall, her wedding day, back when everything still felt like forever. She didn't cry. She simply took the photo down, slid it into a drawer, and locked it away. The world outside had changed, and so had she. The timid woman who once whispered, "Please don't kick me," was gone. In her place stood someone who had faced the storm and come out unbroken. That evening, the news anchor's final report echoed through her apartment. Adrian Cole, once a symbol of modern success, now faces potential legal charges and public fallout. Sources confirm that his estranged wife, Lily Tran, is cooperating fully with investigators. Lily turned off the TV. The city lights flickered across her window like quiet applause. And as she stood there, watching the skyline she once feared, Lily realized the truth had already done what revenge never could. It set her free. The night was unusually still. Outside Lily's apartment, the city buzzed faintly with muted sirens and the hum of streetlights. Inside, the air was calm, almost too calm, like the world had paused after the storm of truth. She sat by the window, her hands resting over her belly. The glow from the city stretched across her face, soft, gold, and steady. For the first time in months, her mind wasn't racing. She'd survived the humiliation, the lies, the betrayal, but her body had its own plan for what came next. A sudden pain gripped her abdomen, sharp and unexpected. She froze, gasping softly. Then another came, closer, stronger. Her teacup slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. She looked down and realized her dress was wet. Panic rose in her chest. Her water had broken. She grabbed her phone with trembling fingers and called Margaret first, her voice shaking. It's time. The baby's coming early. Lily, listen to me, Margaret said quickly. I'll call an ambulance right now. Don't move too much. Breathe. As she hung up, another contraction hit, and Lily gripped the edge of the table. The pain was deep, primal, and terrifying, but beneath it was something else. Determination. She wasn't afraid anymore. She'd faced worse pain that didn't leave physical scars. Minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Not the paramedics, Ethan. His shirt was half-buttoned, his hair damp from rain. Margaret called me, he said breathlessly. The ambulance is on its way. Lily's breath came in uneven bursts. You shouldn't be here. Try and stop me, he replied, slipping his arm under hers to steady her. Come on, deep breaths. You've got this. They reached the elevator, the world spinning around her. Ethan kept talking, grounding her in the present. Focus on my voice, Lily. Just breathe. You've already walked through fire. This is the last storm. The sirens outside echoed through the building as the paramedics arrived. Lily barely registered the ride to Park Avenue Hospital. She clutched Ethan's hand, whispering through the pain. Don't let them near my baby. Don't let Adrian try anything. Ethan's eyes hardened. He won't. You're safe now. I promise. Hours passed in a blur of monitors, nurses, and contractions. The pain was relentless, but Lily met each wave with silent strength. When exhaustion took her, she remembered her mother's voice from years ago, soft, comforting, filled with faith. Pain is the proof that life insists on happening. And life did happen. At dawn, the cry of a newborn cut through the sterile air, pure and fierce. The doctor smiled. Congratulations, Mrs. Cole. It's a boy. Lily's tears fell freely as they placed the tiny bundle in her arms. The baby's skin was warm, his heart beat fast against her chest. Daniel, she whispered. Your name is Daniel. Ethan stood near the doorway, silent, watching the moment unfold. There was something raw in his eyes, respect, relief, and a quiet awe. He's strong, he said softly. He has to be, Lily whispered back. He's mine. A nurse entered with a clipboard. You need to list the father's name on the birth certificate, she said gently. Lily hesitated for a moment, then shook her head. Leave it blank for now. He has my name. That's enough. Outside the window, the morning sun broke through the clouds, spilling golden light across the hospital room. The city felt new again, like it was breathing with her. As she held Daniel close, her phone buzzed once more. A news alert. Adrian Cole officially removed as CEO of Cole Dynamics following confirmed investigation results. The universe had chosen its timing with poetic precision. Lily turned off the phone, unwilling to let his shadow touch this moment. She pressed her lips to Daniel's forehead and whispered, You'll never know the world I escaped from. You'll only know the one I build. Ethan smiled quietly, stepping closer. You did it, Lily. You finally won. She looked up at him, tired but radiant. No, she said softly. I didn't win. I healed. And as the sun climbed higher over Manhattan, Lily realized she hadn't just given birth to a child. She'd given birth to her new life. 2 weeks after Daniel's birth, the air in Manhattan felt different. Spring sunlight spilled over the streets like a quiet promise, and for the first time in years, Lily woke without fear. Her body was still sore, her nights still restless, but her spirit, once broken and bruised, was steady. The media frenzy had started to fade, and with Adrian suspended from Cole Dynamics, the world was slowly learning the truth. Lily didn't chase the headlines anymore. She had something real to hold now. Daniel slept peacefully beside her, his tiny breaths filling the room. She brushed a finger across his cheek and smiled. You saved me, she whispered. You reminded me what matters. A soft knock came at the door. It was Ethan, holding 2 coffees and a brown paper bag. Peace offering, he said. 1 latte, 1 decaf. Don't guess which is which. Lily smiled faintly. You're learning. He placed the cups down, then paused, studying her face. You look different. Like I slept? No, he said. Like you came back from somewhere far away. She looked out the window toward the skyline. Maybe I did. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. Then Ethan spoke again, his tone careful. There's something I should tell you. The board of Cole Dynamics is restructuring. They asked me to step in temporarily, to stabilize things. Lily froze. You're replacing Adrian? He nodded. It's temporary. My firm's handling the audit, but they want a neutral face at the top. She leaned back in her chair, emotions colliding, surprise, gratitude, disbelief. Then this is what you meant all along, balance through truth. Ethan smiled. Something like that. But I won't take it unless you're comfortable with it. You've been through enough. I don't want this to look like another man taking control of your story. Lily shook her head slowly. No, Ethan. You're not taking control. You're restoring order. I'm fine with that. He nodded, relief flickering across his face. Then maybe it's time the company learned how integrity looks in practice. After he left, Lily sat for a long while, watching the light shift across Daniel's blanket. She thought about everything she'd lost, the penthouse, the fake friends, the illusion of forever, and realized she didn't miss any of it. Freedom, she decided, wasn't glamorous. It was quiet, honest, earned. Later that afternoon, Margaret arrived with more news. The final divorce hearing is next month, she said. Adrian's legal team has withdrawn half their motions. He knows he's cornered. Lily nodded, calm. I don't want revenge, I just want it to end. Margaret smiled. It already has. You just haven't celebrated yet. That evening, Lily found herself standing in front of her closet. She'd pulled out the black dress she'd worn the night of the board meeting, the night she'd found her voice. She looked at it, then folded it neatly back into the drawer. She didn't need armor anymore. Instead, she opened her laptop and began drafting something new. A speech for the upcoming internal summit Ethan had mentioned. Coal Dynamics was rebuilding, and Ethan had asked her to share a message about resilience. Her fingers moved across the keyboard effortlessly. When truth costs you everything, it's because you were never meant to keep what was built on lies. The words felt right, real, hers. Daniel stirred in his crib, and she reached over to soothe him. One day, she whispered, you'll know your mom wasn't perfect, but she was brave. She stepped onto the balcony, letting the evening wind brush her face. The city lights shimmered below, reflecting in her eyes. Somewhere across Manhattan, Adrian was probably watching the same skyline, realizing he'd lost the one thing he could never buy back: respect. Lily took a deep breath, the air tasting of rain and new beginnings. And as the city glowed beneath her, she knew this wasn't just survival anymore. It was her return, stronger, freer, and finally unafraid. The envelope sat on Lily's table like a ghost from another life, creamy white, embossed with the Cole family crest in gold. It had been hand-delivered that morning, the courier saying only, from Mr. Adrian Cole. For several minutes she just stared at it, her stomach twisting with unease. Every instinct told her not to open it, that nothing good ever came from his words. But closure, she reminded herself, wasn't given, it was taken. She broke the seal. The letter was written in Adrian's familiar, sharp handwriting. Lily, by now you've gotten what you wanted. Congratulations. You destroyed me in the press, embarrassed me in front of the world, and turned my own board against me. I hope you're proud. I'm willing to settle privately. The Hamptons house is yours. I'll transfer the funds once you sign the confidentiality agreement. Let's end this without more humiliation. A. Lily read it twice, her expression unreadable. Then she folded it neatly, placed it back in the envelope, and set it aside. The same man who once took everything from her was now trying to buy silence with property and guilt. Daniel's soft cooing broke the heavy quiet. She looked over at her baby, lying in his crib by the window, his tiny fingers curled into fists. You see, sweetheart, she whispered, some people think peace comes from control, but real peace, she smiled faintly, it comes from letting go. She called Margaret immediately. He's offering a settlement, she said flatly. Does it include a non-disclosure clause? Yes, he wants me quiet. Margaret sighed. Typical. Don't respond yet. Let him sit in discomfort. Silence is more powerful than any reply. Lily glanced at the letter again, then out the window at the skyline she'd come to love. No, she said softly. I think I will respond, just not the way he expects. That evening, she sat at her desk and began writing her own letter, not to Adrian but to herself. I forgive you, Lily, for loving someone who didn't know how to love you back. I forgive you for staying too long, and I forgive you for thinking you had to shrink yourself to keep peace. You didn't lose him. You found you. When she finished, she sealed it and slipped it into her journal. Her heart felt lighter. Moments later, her phone buzzed. Ethan. Big day tomorrow, he said. The board meeting's public. They're announcing the new CEO. You should be there. I'm not sure that's my place anymore. It is, Ethan said firmly. You're part of this story, whether you admit it or not. It's time you stood in a room where you're respected, not tolerated. Lily hesitated, then smiled. All right, I'll come. The next morning, the Coal Dynamics board meeting was broadcast live. Reporters filled the lobby, cameras flashing. As Lily entered, heads turned, not in scandal this time, but in quiet acknowledgement. She wore a white suit, her hair loose, her Tiffany bracelet glinting under the lights. When Ethan took the podium, his voice carried calm authority. Transparency, he said, isn't just a policy, it's redemption. He turned toward Lily in the audience. And this company owes its redemption to one woman's courage to tell the truth. Applause filled the room. Lily didn't cry. She simply placed a hand over her heart, letting the sound wash through her like forgiveness. Later that afternoon, she finally replied to Adrian's letter. Her message was short. I don't want your money, your house, or your silence. I only ever wanted respect. Keep your settlement. I've already found my peace. She sent it and turned off her phone, feeling a weight lift from her chest. The city outside glowed with sunset, warm and forgiving. Daniel stirred softly in her arms, his eyes opening just as the last light faded. She smiled down at him. And as the evening folded into quiet gold, Lily realized she hadn't just ended a marriage. She'd ended a cycle and begun a legacy. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and nerves. Morning light streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the marble floor. It was the day of the final hearing, the day Lily would legally end her marriage to Adrian Cole. She had imagined this moment countless times, sometimes as vengeance, sometimes as escape. But now that it was here, it didn't feel like either. It felt like release. Margaret walked beside her, her heels clicking with quiet confidence. You don't have to speak unless the judge asks, she said softly. Just stay calm. The evidence speaks louder than any anger could. I'm not angry anymore, Lily replied, straightening her white blazer. Just ready. Inside the courtroom, Adrian sat at the opposing table, his once sharp posture dulled by fatigue. His expensive suit couldn't hide the toll of public disgrace, the sleepless nights, the fading arrogance. When he looked at her, there was no venom left, only something close to regret. The judge, a gray-haired woman with kind but firm eyes, called the session to order. Case number 1128, Cole versus Cole. We are here to finalize the dissolution of marriage and review all pending claims. Margaret stood. Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Lily Tran Cole, seeks full custody of her minor child, Daniel Cole, and legal acknowledgement of emotional distress and financial manipulation during her marriage. Adrian's lawyer rose quickly. Your Honor, my client wishes to resolve this matter amicably. Mr. Cole acknowledges prior misconduct but disputes any claim of intentional harm. The judge raised an eyebrow. Acknowledges misconduct? Adrian's lawyer cleared his throat. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Cole accepts responsibility for certain financial discrepancies and emotional insensitivity. Lily almost smiled. Emotional insensitivity. That was one way to describe betrayal and manipulation. Margaret approached the bench with the evidence folder. Your Honor, these documents, previously verified by the Securities and Exchange Commission, prove misuse of company funds for personal benefit. Mrs. Cole cooperated fully with the investigation, which led to the protection of shareholders and employees. This woman not only defended her own dignity, but upheld the integrity of a corporation. The judge examined the files, her expression softening slightly. Mrs. Cole, would you like to say anything before I deliver my ruling? Lily stood, her voice steady but gentle. Your Honor, I didn't come here for money. I came here for closure. I don't want to be remembered as the woman he betrayed, but as the woman who didn't let betrayal define her. I just want a safe life for my son and peace. The courtroom fell silent. Even Adrian looked down, unable to meet her eyes. After a pause, the judge nodded. Then here is my ruling. Custody of Daniel Cole is awarded solely to Mrs. Lily Tran Cole. Mr. Adrian Cole will have supervised visitation pending completion of parental counseling. All claims for financial compensation are waived at the petitioner's request. A murmur rippled through the room. Adrian's lawyer leaned toward him, whispering, but Adrian just exhaled and nodded. For once, he didn't argue. The judge tapped her gavel. Case closed. The sound echoed like the closing of a long, painful chapter. Lily exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. Margaret touched her shoulder. It's over, she whispered. As they walked out, the sunlight from the courthouse steps bathed her face in warmth. Cameras flashed from a distance, reporters calling her name, But she didn't stop. She didn't need to explain anything anymore. The truth was already public. At the bottom of the steps, she saw Ethan waiting by a black car. When their eyes met, he gave her a small, proud smile. "How do you feel?" he asked. Lily looked out at the crowded street, the endless movement of life going on, as if the world hadn't just shifted. "Lighter," she said softly, "like I finally put down something I was never meant to carry." Ethan nodded. "Then let's go home." As the car pulled away, Lily turned to watch the courthouse fade behind her. Her reflection in the window looked strong, peaceful even. She closed her eyes, listening to the quiet hum of the city, and held Daniel's tiny photo in her hand. And as the sunlight poured through the glass, Lily knew she hadn't just won a case. She had reclaimed her name, her future, and her freedom. The following morning dawned soft and golden, the kind of Manhattan sunrise that looked like forgiveness painted across glass. Lily stood by the window of her apartment, rocking Daniel gently in her arms. He was 8 pounds of pure peace, his tiny face pressed against her shoulder. She could still smell the faint sweetness of his baby lotion mixed with the scent of the city drifting through the cracked window. For months, she had lived in constant motion. Lawyers, headlines, survival. But now there was quiet. The chaos was over. Adrian was gone from her life, bound by court orders and his own ruin. The world wasn't whispering her name in scandal anymore. It was speaking it in respect. Her phone buzzed on the counter. "Ethan." She smiled softly and answered. "Just wanted to check in," he said. His voice was calm, steady. "How's Daniel doing?" "Perfect," she said, looking down at her son. "Peaceful. He sleeps like he doesn't know the world tried to fall apart." Ethan chuckled. "That's because his mother rebuilt it first." His words made her blush. "Don't give me too much credit. I had help." "Maybe," he replied. "But you're the reason it all made sense again." They spoke for a few more minutes before he hung up to join a board call. Lily set the phone down and walked toward the small desk by the window. On it sat a white envelope, the official decree of her finalized divorce. She had already read it once, but now she picked it up again, tracing the embossed seal. The words didn't hurt anymore. They were just words, symbols of what she'd survived. She slipped the document into a folder labeled Past and opened a new one beside it, Future. Inside were sketches and notes for something she'd been dreaming of for weeks. A non-profit foundation dedicated to supporting women in abusive or manipulative relationships. She planned to call it the Silver Ribbon, inspired by the Tiffany bracelet she still wore every day. It no longer symbolized a promise broken, but a bond reclaimed. As she typed, Daniel stirred in his crib. She smiled and hummed softly, the melody of a song her mother used to sing in the kitchen. The lyrics didn't matter. What mattered was the warmth in the sound. The kind that said, "You're safe now." By mid-morning, the apartment filled with sunlight. The scent of brewed coffee drifted from the kitchen. Lily poured herself a cup and opened her laptop again, this time to an email from a publishing house. They wanted her to write a memoir. "Your story could help thousands," the editor had written. She reread the line, heart fluttering. The thought of reliving everything made her nervous. But maybe healing wasn't about forgetting. Maybe it was about turning scars into stories. She started typing the first line. "Once, I begged to be seen. Now, I write so no one feels invisible again." The words flowed easily. Every keystroke felt like exhaling grief and breathing courage. Hours passed unnoticed until the room turned golden again with late afternoon light. A knock came at the door. Ethan stood outside, holding a small box wrapped in silver paper. "For Daniel," he said. Inside was a tiny silver pendant shaped like a heartbeat. "It's beautiful," Lily whispered. Ethan smiled. "It's for protection, and a reminder that strength runs in his blood." They stood there for a moment, the air between them soft and full of something unspoken. When he left, she placed the pendant beside Daniel's crib and whispered, "You'll grow up knowing what real love looks like. Kind, honest, patient." That night, as the city lights blinked beyond the window, Lily curled up with Daniel beside her. She watched him sleep, her fingers tracing gentle circles on his back. The skyline glowed outside, a reminder that even broken things could shine again. And as midnight swept over Manhattan, Lily knew the story of her pain had ended, but the story of her purpose had just begun. Manhattan's skyline shimmered in the morning light, But for Adrian Cole, the city he once ruled had turned into a cage of glass. The news was everywhere: financial channels, headlines, even gossip sites. Cole Dynamics names interim CEO, former founder, under federal investigation. His name, once synonymous with power, now represented greed, fraud, and scandal. He sat in the corner office that no longer belonged to him, staring at the stack of papers his attorney had just placed on the desk. "They're coming after you, Adrian," the man said quietly. "The board's testimony, the receipts, the shell accounts. There's no defense left." Adrian rubbed his temples. "There's always a defense." "Not this time." The attorney left, and Adrian looked out the window. From that height, Park Avenue looked deceptively calm, but he could feel the city's judgment pressing against the glass. He'd built this empire brick by lie, and now every crack he ignored was pulling it apart. On the large screen beside his desk, the news anchor's voice cut through the silence. Cole Dynamics' former CEO, Adrian Cole, is now facing potential charges following financial misconduct and ethical violations. Sources confirm his ex-wife, Lily Tran Cole, played a crucial role in uncovering the internal corruption. Her name hit him like a punch. Lily? He turned off the television, but it was too late. Her image had already filled the room, her calm expression, her poise, her strength. He remembered that night at the plaza, her voice trembling as she cried, "Please don't kick me." He'd laughed it off back then, convincing himself she was weak. But now it was her strength that haunted him. In another part of the city, Lily was feeding Daniel in the morning light, unaware that Adrian was watching her live interview on Bloomberg. The host introduced her as the woman who stood for truth. Her tone was steady, gracious, without bitterness. "I don't want revenge," Lily said. "I just want people to know that silence can be the most dangerous form of complicity. When you speak, even trembling, you change the story." Adrian muted the screen. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, in a rare moment of humility, he whispered, "You won." He reached for his Mont Blanc pen, the same one he'd used to sign the deal that made him a billionaire. It felt heavier now. He scribbled something on a sheet of paper, his handwriting uneven. "I'm sorry for everything. I hope one day my son knows I tried to make it right." He folded the letter and placed it in an envelope marked for Daniel. By afternoon, his lawyer called again. "The board accepted your resignation. The press conference is at 3. They'll spin it as voluntary." "Good," Adrian said simply. "Let them." At 3 o'clock sharp, he stood before the cameras one last time. The reporters crowded around him, flashes blinding, questions sharp. "Do you regret what you did?" someone shouted. Adrian hesitated. For the first time, there was no performance left in him. "Yes," he said quietly. "I regret forgetting that success means nothing without integrity." Then he turned and walked off stage, leaving behind the applause of false admiration and the empire that had consumed him. That evening, the news showed a very different image. Adrian leaving the building alone, no entourage, no chauffeur, just a man stripped of his illusions. The world called it his downfall. But somewhere deep inside, even he knew it was something else, a reckoning. Meanwhile, Lily stood on her balcony, Daniel in her arms, watching the same news feed on silent. The city glowed beneath her, alive and merciless. Ethan joined her, holding 2 mugs of tea. "It's over," he said. Lily nodded. "No, it's finally balanced." She turned away from the screen and looked down at her son, his tiny face reflecting the soft light of Manhattan. "Your father's gone his way," she whispered. "Now it's time for us to live ours." And as the city lights flickered like stars against the glass, Lily knew the past had fallen, but her peace was built to last. The evening air in Manhattan carried the gentle hush of spring, the kind that made the city feel forgiving again. At Barnes & Noble, on 5th Avenue, a quiet crowd gathered under the soft glow of pendant lights. The banner read, "Book Launch, The Truth Beneath Silence," by Lily Tran. Rows of hardcovers lined the table, their silver lettering reflecting the light like a quiet victory. Lily stood behind the podium, wearing a simple ivory dress. Her Tiffany bracelet caught the light every time she turned a page. The room was packed, not with paparazzi or executives, but with people who came to listen. Women, students, mothers, even corporate workers who'd once read her name in the tabloids now stood in silence, waiting to hear her voice. Ethan stood at the back, near the shelves of self-help books, his eyes never leaving her. He'd seen her fight through humiliation, loss, and rebirth. But tonight was different. Tonight, she wasn't surviving. She was leading. Lily adjusted the microphone. Her voice was calm, clear. When I started writing this book, I thought I was documenting pain. But somewhere between the pages, I realized I was documenting freedom. The crowd leaned in, drawn to the warmth beneath her words. I used to believe silence was strength, she continued. That enduring meant surviving. But silence only protected the ones who hurt me. Speaking, telling the truth, even when my voice shook, was what saved me. She paused, glancing toward the back of the room. Her eyes met Ethan's, and a quiet smile passed between them. This book isn't about revenge, she said softly. It's about redemption. It's about remembering that no matter how powerful someone seems, no one owns your story but you. The room erupted in gentle applause. A woman in the front row dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Another whispered, "She did it." After the signing ended, the crowd thinned. Lily packed her notes, the bracelet glinting again as she reached for her pen. A little girl approached the table, holding a copy of the book almost too big for her hands. "Miss Lily," she said shyly, "my mom says you're brave. I want to be brave too." Lily's throat tightened. She knelt down, smiling. "Being brave doesn't mean you don't cry," she said softly. "It means you keep going even when you do." The girl grinned, clutching the signed book. When she left, Lily stood for a moment, absorbing the quiet joy that filled the space. Ethan walked over, hands in his pockets. "You turned pain into art," he said. She laughed gently. "No, I just finally told the truth." He tilted his head. "So what's next for the truth-teller of Manhattan?" She looked around. The books, the people, the life she'd rebuilt from ashes. "Something small," she said. "Something real. I want to open a program through the Silver Ribbon Foundation. Free counseling for women who can't afford it. A place to start again." Ethan smiled. "You're not done changing lives, are you?" Lily glanced toward the door, where the nightlights of the city shimmered. "I don't think healing ever ends. It just keeps spreading." They stepped outside together. The air smelled of rain and possibility. Across the street, the reflection of Fifth Avenue lights danced on puddles, like fragments of old pain finally dissolving. A soft cry rose from the stroller beside them. Daniel stirred, his small hand waving in the air. Lily lifted him, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "This is what happiness looks like," she whispered. Ethan turned to her. "You know, I think you've written more than a book. You've written your future." She smiled, looking up at the night sky stretched over Manhattan's glittering towers. "Maybe," she said, "but the best chapters haven't been written yet." They began walking, the city lights wrapping around them like a promise. The noise of New York, the laughter, the horns, the heartbeat, didn't feel overwhelming anymore. It felt alive. Lily turned back one last time, looking at the bookstore's glowing window, her name shining above the door. For years, she had been a story other people told. Now, she was the author. And as she walked into the night, hand in hand with her child and her newfound peace, Lily finally lived. Not as the billionaire's wife, not as the scandal's survivor, but as the woman who chose herself. So that's how our story ends, my dear friends. You're still here, aren't you? If you've stayed with Lily's journey until this very moment, then maybe, just maybe, something in her story has touched your heart. Maybe you felt her pain, her courage, or her quiet strength to start again. And that's what life is really about, isn't it? Falling, breaking, healing, and then choosing to rise. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Lily's life reminds us that even pain can guide us toward purpose. Healing doesn't come from erasing the past. It comes from facing it, learning, and loving ourselves through it. You don't need to be a billionaire's wife or live in Manhattan to understand that. You just need to remember that your voice matters, your truth matters, and your peace matters. If this story moved you, if it made you believe that strength can be quiet and healing can be beautiful, then please, like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope tonight, and don't forget to subscribe. Because somewhere out there, another Lily is waiting to remember how strong she already is, and maybe, with your help, she finally will.